Jai Gurudev, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Vihangam Yog Global Online Satsang. I myself am Avinav, joining from Australia, and for those of you joining us for the first time, a warm welcome. For those of you who returned once more, we thank you for your ongoing support. Firstly, I hope everyone's doing well. As we reach toward the end of the year, I'm sure many of you, like me, are feeling the heat of different things, whether you be a student looking towards examinations, a professional perhaps preparing for end-of-year conferences or deliverables. For myself personally, as I navigate through the year which has gone by, I try my best to ask myself, how can I learn from the year which has gone by and carry those learnings into the coming year? And one aspect of life which, I feel we all grapple with, and myself, I have also grappled with this year, is irregardless of time, place, or whatever we do in our lives, we all wonder about time management. Whether a student, professor, educationist, or any occupation, I feel every conversation I have with every person it revolves around the same questions of how can I manage my time well and effectively? What should I do with my time? What do I currently do with my time? And today we're going to dive into this. We'll be looking at this topic equipped with our global panel, and we'll be going through a journey through the lens of the ancient sites of Vihangam Yoga and the meaning of Swarved, which is the main kind of, element of this series which we're bringing to you, the secrets of Swarved. And the Swarved is a distillation of the experiences of Shri Sadguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj. He went on an extremely unique and complete journey through the depths of spirituality and beyond. And, his wisdom has guided so many millions of people around the world. So we're very humbled that we can share this platform with you all today. With the blessings of the Master, we're now equipped to dive into our topic of the day, secrets from Swarved, time management. As always, if you have any questions or thoughts which you'd like to share, we have two avenues available to you. Slido.com/VIGOS, which is coming, just went off screen, as well as our WhatsApp number, which is just coming onto screen now. As we go through, we'll be having an open discussion about time management from two very experienced individuals. And it'd be lovely to hear from you wonderful speakers about the things which you're worried about, things which you want to understand better, because I feel, we're all here to learn together and grow together. Now we move toward our Q&A session for the day, an informal discussion around the topic for the day, secrets from Swarved, time management. I'm honored to present to you our two speakers for the day. First, Shekhar Kishore from Australia, who's a former hospitality professional, now an educationist, with a plethora of experience in the vocational and online education sectors. He's currently the head of operations at Wentworth Education Group. I hope you can hear me clearly, Shekharji.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Lovely. And I'd also like to introduce Dr. Subhash Chandra, who's a forensic psychiatrist and associate professor of psychiatry in New York. And both are very dedicated disciples of Vihangam Yoga for many years. Dr. Chandra brings a very unique perspective on Vihangam Yoga with his scientific background. So I'd really love to introduce Dr. Subhash Chandra as well. I hope you can hear me clearly as well, Dr. Chandra. Okay, let's see how we go. So, to start for the day, I was reflecting on the topic for today, and time management seems like a concept which has emerged. It's come into the modern world and modern day, and I was wondering what both of our speakers today think in terms of why do we always feel like we don't have enough time. Every second person who I have the privilege of speaking with, it seems like we both struggle with the same thing, which is, why don't we have enough time? And I was wondering, what is it about us and about human life that, we always feel like we don't have enough time? So I'd love to understand from perhaps first from Shekharji, why do you feel that we feel like this? Did our ancestors feel the same way? Are we the only ones who feel like this? Is this something that's emerged in modern day? Did we have more time or enough time before? What's changed? So I'd love to understand what you think about this one, Shekharji, to get us started.
Thank you. This is a fascinating quest everyone has. And for me to make a statement that in the past, people had more time compared to the current times. Actually, if you look at it, it is not that the times has changed or the availability of time has changed. It is more dependent on individuals, how they use their time, how their everyday life goes on, what is their focus, what do they want to achieve. And it's a combination of all of those things which brings us to the stage when we look back, we realize that, oh my God, I have wasted so much of time, or I did not do this when I was supposed to do it, or I was distracted in something. So this is where the question always starts to pop up in our mind. What can we do to make sure that we are able to manage our time better? And I think through various examples, I would like to share from my professional experiences, working with people from different backgrounds. And I'm sure that Dr. Subhash Chandra will also be sharing some of his experiences. So yeah, in brief, it is more about the holistic approach an individual has towards their life, which defines whether time has given them what they wanted to achieve in the given time, or they have missed out on those opportunities. I hope this gives a brief response to your question.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think that you've raised a very important point there, which is, we all have the same amount of time. Whether it be, if you pick up the person you respect the most in the world for their achievements, what they've done in their time, in their lives, they have 24 hours of time in a day as well. When I was young, I would read books on Isaac Newton and all these incredible scientists, and I'd wonder, how do they do it? And, it's fascinating and humbling to know that they had the same amount of time. It's just that we do different things with it. So I'd love to also hand over to, or just, share these thoughts with Dr. Chandra. Thank you for joining us today. I wonder what's your reflection on this kind of point as well? Like, why do you feel we feel like we don't have enough time, and what can we do to really understand this feeling?
Thank you, Abhinavji. Thank you for having me. And it's a wonderful stage to be able to share such experiences among our esteemed listeners and esteemed colleagues like Shekharji. I believe time is a concept. Ask a depressed person. For him, 24 hours feels like one full year. They can't pass even 1 minute. So time is more like a feeling. Ask the person who has got a job, a dream job of their life. For them, 24 hours pass in few minutes. Now, someone who is waiting in traffic to reach their job, and they are so emotionally overwhelmed that the boss will be cursing them again today, that this emotional overpowering on their intelligence, that no matter what they feel, no matter how they deal with it, the traffic won't change. It's only their emotion that will drain their mental energy. Ask them how much time they have lost in traffic. So time is just a concept we created. But otherwise, we have an internal clock of time. We say we'll have lunch at this time, but our body does not know the watch to know the time. Hunger is set at its own time. Sleep is set at its own time. Same way, in olden days, as your question was, there were no human-made machines. Cooking took a lot of time. There were no frozen food, no microwave. You had to use charcoal. Even having fire was a process. They still had time. Even cleaning clothes, they had no washing machine. They still had time. We have everything else, it seems, except time. So as you move further with your questions, I'll continue to share my opinion. Thank you. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chandra. That's very fascinating to hear, and I think it definitely plays well with both what I was trying to think through, and what Shekhar has also shared with us. There's also a perception of time which we have to be aware of and keep in mind. And it takes us very well and very organically to the next part of what I wanted to understand with you both, which is, if we know that, we have these two things, we have, an internal clock, we have, 24 hours in a day. What does spirituality say in terms of what we as humans should do with our time? Let's say I'm a student, let's say I'm a professional, everyone has a different position in life, different age, different responsibilities. But are there certain things which we should do with our time? And I'd love to understand from both of your personal experiences and journeys. Are there certain things you've come across where you feel there is maybe a technique or an approach with which you can define, like, this is something I should do with my time, this is something I should not do with my time, so that you can be more, let's say, precise with the way you live your life? So maybe we could start with you, Dr. Chandra, and then move to Shekhar.
Okay, sure. Yes, it is a fascinating question. Now ask that frog who has always grown up in that well, catching insect in that well. The entire life he has enough time, fulfilled, nothing else to do. Eat that insect, grow up and die in that well. So for a student, again, the time and the student life is based on how far the light of the bulb goes in their scope of life. So if they are grown in a family where the expectation is that you have to become an accountant, and so that is their priority set there. So with that priority in mind, their time is divided to that priority. Let's say if someone is born in the house of a millionaire, the priority is that you have to wake up. When you wake up, you have to eat when you want to eat. You have to sleep when you want to sleep. So the priorities decide the amount of time for each person. The moment you change the priority, things change. Now that accountant parent who wants the kid to be an accountant, if you tell them that the life is beyond just becoming an accountant, the bulb which is lighting in their room, which is just limited to the scope of being an accountant, if it is widened enough to see the world from a broader angle, that student, that son, is not that frog who will just eat the insect of being an accountant or doctor or engineer and die eating that insect of accountant and engineer or doctor and end the life. But the world is way more than that. The way the person, the student needs to understand is that the life is given for this conscious self. The life has not to be driven by compulsion of these kind of worldly priorities, but the life has to be led by consciousness. Life has to be led by the reasoning of why I am not a frog, why I am not an insect, why I am not an animal, why I am a human being, why my brain is superior. And then with that scope in mind comes the role of meditation. As we move further, and your questions will come along, because I don't want to take a lot of time for one question, how meditation decreases the need for the amount of time you spend in a particular task, and how your life changes because your priorities have changed, so your dimensions have changed, so your emotions have changed. So it's a very simplified circle that we will discuss as we move along. Back to you, Abhinavji.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chandra. It makes a lot of sense. And I think as we're all going through and listening about these things, would like to remind everyone that we have 2 avenues available to you to share your thoughts as well. Slido.com/ForYouIGOS, as well as a WhatsApp number, which I will put on the screen in just a moment. And, I think you touched on something very important there, which is, understanding what we should do with our time. And I believe the Swarved as well speaks about the life of a human. And there's a particular word which I'm going to mispronounce, but I'll try anyway, which is Satupyog, I believe. And I'd love to understand from Shekharji, just kind of leading on from what Dr. Chandra has shared with us, what is this concept of Samaya Saputyog, if you could, if that's how it's pronounced.
Thank you. I think what we are trying to explain here or discuss here, Samaya ka Sadupyog, basically Sadguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj, and he has tried to provide all of us the knowledge based on his experience, where he says that, as Subhash was talking just a few minutes back, that the purpose of our life defines so many things which happens to us and how we live our life. So for those who believe that the purpose of their existence is to achieve the worldly goals, the materialistic successes, and the name and fame, and for them, the concept of time becomes like a flat, but also a vicious cycle, where their emotions, their passion, everything is driven towards the achievement of those objectives. Whereas when Swamiji tries to explain that if you really want to understand the purpose of your life, which is what the bhajan was, today's bhajan, janme wala is jagat mein, अवश्य एक दिन जाएगा. So प्यारे उठ के प्रभु को सुमिरो, नहीं तो अंत पछताएगा. And the message is very loud and clear that everyone who is born in this world, there's a time within which they exist in this world and then they leave the world. And as just Subhash was touching base on why the human life is the most superior life, why he have the capabilities, and what's the purpose, why we have been given this human birth, and what is the purpose of its existence. This is absolutely what he has mentioned. It is about moving towards the conscious path, moving towards the realization, and to achieve that, if we are trying to remove ourselves from those materialistic attractions which try to drag us always in that direction, the more we try to remove ourselves from that, remain detached whilst we are doing. And Swamiji has given a beautiful explanation about it in a simple verse, where he says that त्याग सकल जग यूं करे, सब प्रभु का मम नाही, मैं भी प्रभु का जनन में, सो प्रभु बस मम माही. Basically, what Swamiji explains by this verse is that if we have this feeling in our heart that everything what I am doing, everything what I have, and everything what I will achieve, it's not mine. It all belongs to that Prabhu, to that God, because of whom we exist here. Then everything what we will do will be in the righteous way, and we will be utilizing the time in the most efficient way. And that is the spiritual message behind it. which is very important for us to understand. So coming back to your question, I think if we are focusing on the things without understanding the purpose, then the likelihood of achieving our goals becomes very remote, because we will get distracted into all other things, which is not really what we want to achieve. I hope it briefly answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think you've opened up a really interesting, portal there into something which I think all of our listeners are curious about at times, which is, when we speak about, forming a line between material desire and, directing our life with same material desire and directing it with consciousness, how do we actually, it seems sensible to say that, if we can align ourselves with a certain state of consciousness, then we'll be more aware of our time, more aware of our life, and how to bring the two together. But I wonder, Shekharji, how does the Swarved explain that we can bridge this gap between an understanding of these concepts and really living these concepts of actually, starting to apply ourselves to life in a particular way?
Yeah, I think let's look at a good example of you're talking about a student. So as Subhash was explaining, that if the student has been provided a sort of a goal, a framework around him or her, that this is what you need to become. Obviously, they try to map out their journey. They try to map out their day-to-day routine in a way that they are able to achieve that goal. But what happens when a student starts walking that path? You step out of home, you interact with your friends. They all have different focus in life. You interact with different people who have different capabilities. And that's where the student might get distracted, thinking that he or she is better and I'm not able to compete at that level. The student might get distracted by something else which others are doing, whether someone is playing music, which he or she likes, whether someone is in sports. So what the situation becomes really complex for a student, how to be involved in those activities which are required, or how to stay away from those activities, which basically is a distraction. How to judge all of those things and still remain focused on their individual goals of what they want to achieve. And most importantly, think beyond that particular goal which has been set by somebody else for him or her is not the end of the world. So this is where it becomes really complex, that a student then starts to divide his or her time and attention towards different things, or withdraw their energy from different things to be able to remain focused on that. And then it's a situation where some of them, they get completely confused. Some become completely nervous. Some become even depressed. And there are hundreds of examples of students studying in engineering colleges in India or preparing for engineering exams. They get into depression stage because they are not able to understand or achieve the goal which has been set for them without their complete understanding of how to go about everything and how to stay clear from the things which can become a distraction. So one of the other example I would like to share is that, which is directly coming from Swamiji's verses in Swarved. He says that if you really want to be successful in the world, you have to learn two things at the same time and be very good at that, because your objective is one. One is that you need to realize that you are a part of this ecosystem in this world. It's in the family, it's whether it is in the school, the college, the workplace you are in, the community you are living in, the country you are living in. You must remain attached to them and perform all of your duties exactly as you are a part of them. But the second message is that whilst you are doing all of them, you must remember that your purpose is slightly above that. And he gives a very good example of the leaf of a lotus flower. The way the leaf of the lotus flower, whilst the lotus flower and the leaf is a part of that, is attached to the entire ecosystem of the pond or the lake where it is growing, yet it remains above the water, and the water cannot stay on that leaf. This example is really found where it shows you how physically you can visually see that. And it is easy said, but not that easy to do unless you walk the path of spirituality to get to the stage where you are able to remain attached, yet detached from the outcomes of what is happening in your life. I hope this gives you a little bit of perspective of what I'm trying to explain.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think you've directed us to a very interesting part of our conversation, which I'd like to explore further with both of you, which is, we have to become aware of what our energy is currently doing and then direct it. And one of the words which comes to mind, which is very contemporary, is procrastination. Where people, let's say, even myself, sometimes I'll find myself watching YouTube videos, and I know I'm not meant to, but by the time I become aware of that, so much time has already passed, and then the words time management becomes so painful to even think about, because I know I'm wasting my time. And I'll open a to-do app, or I'll open a checklist, and I'll wonder, how many things can I actually do today? So I'd love to explore this one, perhaps first with you, Dr. Chandra, which is how do we become aware of our energy and what it's currently doing, and how then do we direct it in the right direction?
Am I clearly audible? Because
yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you. So the concept of energy is interesting in itself. So I will use the very concrete day-to-day examples rather than trying to make it complicated. And first of all, the way Shekhar brought the concept of depression, that how we start losing our energy when the consciousness decreases and we start doing things out of compulsion. So that was a very good way of putting things, and how procrastination comes into play is that when our mind, body, energy all are in sync, that is the time we are most effective. Now, let's say, since we are focused on students and procrastination, and I'm still a student, but let's go back in time and how we tend to procrastinate. The concept of positive and negative energy matters a lot. When you are happy, you're full of positive energy. When you're full of positive energy, you tend to do things faster. And with meditation, even with the first stage of Vihangam Yoga meditation, all those who do it, who have done it, they will tell you how much of positive energy they get bestowed with. The sense of compassion that comes to them, within them, that the negative energy doesn't touch them so easily. So it's more like before the exam, you are with a roommate who is constantly nagging and complaining and nagging and complaining. And even if it is about his own life, but your energy level starts going down. The concept of energy is the same as concept of anything. Like water, it goes from high level to the low level. Energy travels from a high energy level to low energy level. So your energy, your mind, and your emotions. Now here comes the role of emotions. Our emotions take control. Amygdala is the root of the emotions. Our emotions take control of our intellect very fast. And again, in the very first step of Vihangam Yoga meditation, We are capable of taking control of emotion over our intellect, over our intelligence, or that part of the brain that is driven through five sense organs. So the fear that I will fail in the exam in itself will decrease your productivity. That fear, which shouldn't have been there in the first place, because there is no way you can predict where you will fail or pass in the exam. So that fear in itself has decreased your productivity and given you enough reason to procrastinate. So most of the people tend to procrastinate because of the negative energy around them. Nothing else is giving them pleasure. So they tend to, as you said, start watching YouTube and you don't even feel that it was necessary, but you kind of keep on watching to generate some positivity or pleasure. As in, you're trying to create a sync between the state of your mind, the level of your energy, and your body, the way the body, it's a Sunday, you just want to relax. And that is the same thing that needs to happen. And there comes the role of meditation. Every time you do the first stage of meditation, the amount of time you spend, whether in studying or in working, your amount of time decreases at least by half, and for some people multifold. Those students who complete a lesson in 6 hours, you finish it in 3 hours. The focus improves multifold. And even by my own experiences, and many people have shared the same experience. And that is the reason why meditation is very important in your day-to-day life. Now, the importance of time, I will give you another example, that when I was watching the YouTube, the way you were watching it for the sake of relaxing, so the importance of time was two friends met in a Starbucks coffee house. They met after a very long time, but the other friend seemed very uncomfortable, a little restless. So one friend asked, "What happened? You don't seem to be doing well. You seem uncomfortable." He told, "I am paid $160 per hour. So it seems like sitting here talking to you, I'm wasting $160 per hour." He felt bad. He felt offended. The other friend who does not earn $160 per hour. And then in the middle of the discussion, this friend of $160 per hour even said that, when I'm spending time with my kids, sometimes even I hate that, because I feel like in this time I would have earned $160 per hour. So see, the way we have limited the concept of time with money, with gaining something, for what, to what, is not even clear to us, because we believe that we have enough time. But if you go back to our bhajan of today's session, that our time is limited. And this life was given for one and only one purpose. So the moment we all are consciously aware of that purpose of this human life, then only you will have enough time for everything. With that conscious awareness, this human body will become our own culprit. That conscious awareness, and with the blessings of Sadguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj and his practices and your effort of the practices, you will never be in short of time. And that, okay, I will stop here and back to Avinaji for further questions.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chandra. I think you dove into a very important thing there, which is, and I think it's a very clearly coming out as a theme of our discussion, which is, if we don't have a purpose around which we are, centering our life and having a principle-centered life aligned with our purpose, then it becomes very difficult to even navigate, what you should do with your time. And to be aware of, if I am on YouTube, should I be on YouTube? Does it match up with what I want to do? And I think even Shekharji's mentioned this as well. So it's very clear to us, I think, as listeners, that purpose is extremely important, and meditation is an extremely important device which manifests as a way to direct our energy and our consciousness, so that we can make sure we are doing the right things. And I wanted to understand this better, and we also have a question from one of our seekers, which is, perhaps we'll start with you, Dr. Chandra, which is we're looking at the economy of energy and how it, kind of all fits into what we do with our time. And one of our seekers has asked, and I thank you to the listener who asked this one, is it better to have too much time, or is it better to have no time? Which one is there a way we can understand this? So perhaps I'll ask this to you first, Dr. Chandra, and then we'll ask Shekharji for his thoughts. So the question is it better to have too much time or to have no time?
Thank you, Avinavji, and thank you to our esteemed listener who asked this question. And as I was discussing in the beginning of our session, that time is a perspective. Who has no purpose in life, who has nothing to do, who doesn't even understand that this human body and this level of intelligence, this human brain, which was not given to any other species on the earth, was for this journey, the journey that we have been talking about. So there cannot be too much time, because your meditation you can do unvarth 24 hours a day. You can never have enough time for this, the pleasure that you derive from that meditation. It will pass by like it's 1 hour. Your day will become of just 1 hour instead of 24 hours a day, if you have the purpose of life, that is attaining that supreme bliss. Now coming to too little a time. Now too little a time is also a concept. Why a concept? We will have to go in detail with multiple different examples. It's a concept if it's, let's say, a mother who has a job, a family to take care of, a husband who does nothing for the house, 3 kids, age 2, 5, 7. Now, when I asked her, when she comes to my clinic, how do you manage to stay in perfect shape? Because I can never dare to manage all these things. How do you even have a single moment for yourself? And it was wonderful to see how she manages time for everything, despite my imagination of her hectic life. She told that every time she is going to the daycare, she runs with her kids. She just does not walk. So she enjoys, her kids enjoy, they laugh on the way, and that is some sort of exercise for her. Now as she is coming back, again she runs. So that's why she has maintained her jogging. Now she does not drive to the work. She takes subway or train. Now, instead of wasting time on the subway and train, she does whatever she has to do on that subway. If she has to apply makeup, or she has to read something, or she has to talk to her family, or she has to text or chat, she uses that time during her transit. What I mean to say, I can go on for a routine, because she gave me the entire 24 hours routine and how she still feels happy and she still feels she has enough time. It's all about how you find joy, because that emotion is also very relative. If running with your kids can give you joy, to some, and to some it will be early morning, I have to drop my 3 kids to the daycare before I go to work, I have to cook for them, what a hell of a life I have. You can keep complaining and nagging, or you can keep enjoying and derive positive energy for yourself and for your better health. So in my personal opinion, to my esteemed a person who has come up with this question, is that no one can have enough time or less time. If you have a set goal, if you have a set priority for what you want to do, and if you have a clear-cut purpose of life, then you have that optimal time that is needed to achieve the goal and purpose of life. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chandra. It's a fantastic way of explaining it, I believe. And I'd love to also hear what Shekharji has to say about this one. And perhaps while you're explaining this, Shekharji, I'd love for you to also maybe dive into, let's say we do now know what we want to do with our time. Then the next frontier really becomes how do we become active in that lifestyle? There's so much difficulty in terms of laziness and sometimes sleepiness. And I believe the Swarved also talks about this. So I'd love for you to maybe reflect on these things with us, and then let's see where we go from there.
Thank you, Avinaji. I think Subhash summed up so well. In my personal opinion as well, there cannot be a better example than a mom, than a mother. A mother with a couple of kids and job responsibilities and looking after the family, and still being a person who is contributing to everybody's success or happiness. How a mother manages the time, looking after everyone. Recently, I saw a very interesting job advertisement on LinkedIn. And this gentleman was interviewing 5 different people for the role of a CEO. And he kept on going that the job requires you to do this, you to do this and that. And he kept on explaining HR objectives and financial objectives and time management. And then towards the end, he said that this job will have no salary and this is 24 hours, 7 days a week. So every single applicant who was talking live on video, they said, you must be crazy. That is impossible. Can anyone ever do it? And he said that, yes, that's your mother. Everybody started and realized that this was not actually a job interview, but it was actually telling them. It's a great way of doing it. Everybody started to literally, you could see the tears in their eyes when then they started to share their own experiences, how their mom managed all the challenges and the stresses of life to make sure that the kids and the family and everyone she was responsible for achieved their goals. And this is exactly what Swamiji's doha was, that Sab Prabhu ka mam nahi. That feeling that gives the joy which comes within you when your purpose is attached to making others successful. That's what drives a mom towards the perfect time management. And Subhash's example was fascinating about this person. He was sharing about how she manages her time. In her actions, it is not about her desires. In her action is also about the benefit for the kids, whilst keeping healthy, fit, being on time, yet keeping that motivation, the joy levels to the peak. Likewise, when it comes to the spiritual life, what Swamiji explains here to all of us is that there are certain things we have to do to achieve that stage. And there are certain things we have to be cautious about, which can easily drag any spiritual seeker backwards. And some of the things which he says is the desire to sleep, the desire or the tendency of feeling, oh, I'm tired and I will take a nap or I'll just take a break all the time. And that comes from certain attributes of a human being. One of the key things which impacts our thinking, our living style, is the diet, what we take. What do we eat? At what time do we eat? What portions do we eat? They all have an impact on our body. And when it impacts on our body, it has impact on our body, it automatically raises those attributes within our mind, and which starts to basically cut us and drag us in a completely different direction, opposite to where we want to be. So it is a fascinating subject and a fascinating topic. It is very difficult to encapsulate the entire message of Swamiji from these years of meditative practice, what he experienced. But I think these sessions, what we are conducting and interacting with such a fantastic audience on this platform, I'm pretty sure that we will come up with various such opportunities to go delve deeper into some of the subjects. So being mindful of time, I would like to stop here now and hopefully we get an opportunity to interact again. Back to you, Abhinavji. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shekharji. And I want to take this opportunity to thank both Shekharji from Australia and Dr. Chandra from the US. I think both of you shared such incredibly profound and yet such simple perspectives and things we can all take away into our lives and to think about and really apply. So I want to thank you both for joining us this week. And I too hope we can interact again very soon. And with that, we've come toward the end of another week on the Vihangam Yoga Global Online Satsang in our series, Secrets from Swarved. Today we discuss time management. And as we kind of reach toward the end, it's an interesting exercise that I do from time to time where I get a piece of paper and I write down what I want to do. And then from there, I'd start to backtrack. Okay, I want to achieve this thing. What things do I need to do to achieve this thing? What habits, what principles are going to help me do that? And I think in the human life at large, in the spiritual life at large, we're told that there's certain things we need to achieve and we need to think about. And these sessions give us an important platform to take a moment to stop and think about these things, about what our life is moving toward right now and perhaps which direction it should move toward for us to achieve the joy which both Dr. Chandra and Shekharji explained today. So perhaps as we, finish up with this week and we, reconvene next week, perhaps something we can all think about is what does give us true joy? And how can we prolong that state of joy and really enter a state of bliss? Is there a way? Is there a practice? And thankfully, in the Secrets of Swarved series, we'll be diving into this more and more and hopefully giving all of us a way forward in our own lives. So thank you everyone for joining us and see you next week. Jai Sudev. Have a great week ahead.
Sadafal Shanti Mai Shanti Shanti Sukh Shanti